Revelation 1365. From the 1st of April 1940. Abuse of free will. Apostasy of the spiritual from God. People often reject a wise and just Creator, because the unspeakable suffering on earth does not want them to believe in an primordial origin, who is supposed to be love himself. And they do not think about how far the people themselves are the originators of all sufferings and tribulations. The motive for everything should be sought in the actual cause, and here too, man must once realize that both the sufferings and their effects are the consequences of a completely wrong direction of will. The freedom of will must always be considered first. Without this free will, the human being would not be what he should be. A being which can become perfect out of itself in order to be able to create and work like God one day. He would be a guided being, no longer like an animal, guided by the will of the Creator to execute his activity. It is therefore for the first time that it is not perfect beings being placed perfectly into the world. But they must first develop themselves towards their destiny. And therefore can also the free will not be taken away from the being. It can only be influenced to this or that action. That people misuse their free will in a way that is completely unsuitable for them, that they use it to move further and further away from God instead of coming closer to Him, is decisive for all the side effects of their life on earth. They could very easily make this a bearable, less suffering life for themselves if they use their will correctly, because their only task is to bridge the separation from God, to reduce the distance from Him, to again get closer to God, from whom they distanced themselves when the Spirit detached itself from the primordial Spirit. All spiritual which came out of God, had free will. They have separated themselves from God in self-conceit in the beginning, but they should unite again with the Creator of all things, with the primordial Spirit, the primordial power, and this is possible, because the free will must remain, by no other means than suffering. Of the banished state, because only suffering reduces self-conceit. Suffering is bondage, and the recognition of bondage humbles. The being cannot reach its perfection in any other way than in deepest humility. Therefore the being, which thought itself mighty and dominant and rebelled against God as the origin of all light, must be brought down to deepest humility, to be able to cover the way to the height with ease. And the world is less than ever humble and desiring God's help. It is more than ever under the control of the one who caused the apostasy of all spiritual out of God, and now all spiritual is rebelling against God to a great extent, in that people consciously deny Him and in unkindness comply with all demands of the adversary, but no longer respect the commandment of love, which again has to be fulfilled if man is to be spiritualized, which only makes the being what it is supposed to be, according to divine destiny. And therefore the will is wrongly guided, and this wrong will is now to be shaped rightly, and this is only possible through suffering, because all other attempts of a reshaping remained without result. But God's love and mercy does not want to leave people to their self-chosen fate. For His wisdom truly recognizes what is useful to the soul of man for the sake of his perfection. Amen.